everybody, and welcome back to Ball Knowledge. We are in week 2 of the NFL preseason. I can't believe it. Things are already moving quickly. We're seeing a lot of familiar faces in new uniforms, new coaching staffs, new organizations, a lot of exciting things to break down, and a lot of things that I want you to be in tune to and to pay attention to that will really help you get the most out of this NFL season. Like I said, we saw a lot of familiar faces we know and love in new uniforms. We saw Geno Smith, Robert Saleh, Shedeur Sanders, a lot of different folks who have come out who I'm really excited to dive into this. So the first familiar face in a new uniform is Robert Saleh. Well, it's not a completely new uniform. He was the head coach for the New York Jets up until 2024. Robert Saleh is back acting as the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. So as a fan, of course, it was fantastic to see his familiar face and energy back on the sidelines, really leading the team. But there's a little bit more behind this reasoning, in my opinion. So the 49ers, their first 5 picks in the NFL draft this year were defensive players. So to me, when I look at last year and I see an offense, quite honestly, riddled with injuries, Christian McCaffrey being the most notable, the departure of Brandon Ayuk for a number of reasons, that offense to me feels like a little bit bigger of a question mark. That is a little bit more of a gray area. But if I'm the 49ers GM, I'm looking at the defense and I'm honing in on that defense. I'm thinking, who can I bring back that will lead this team tried and true? And that was Robert Saleh. So that was an incredible move to get him back, in my opinion. I think anyone who remembers that 49ers defense when he was leading it back 5 years ago remembers that energy. The 49ers were ranked the top defense in the NFL actually for 2 of the seasons that he was leading the defense, and he also took them to the Super Bowl, and that record and the record for the team that year was 13-3. So he's got an amazing record. He's got the credit and stats to back him up, but not only that, the team loves him. As a lot of insiders on the field have told me that the team really rallies around this guy. Even offensive players are excited to have him be a force that is kind of their North Star. So, like I said, the 49ers, their first 5 picks were defensive. So not only to me is that a signal that the shift is going to be kind of moving away from hedging all of our bets on offensive players like Christian McCaffrey, but I think it signals a long-term commitment to Robert Saleh being a staple part of this coaching staff. And it shows to me that the team, the GM, the coaching staff, the managers are making long-term investments in this defense. So while this year is slightly a building block year for the 49ers, coming back from a lot of injuries, the majority of the players being in their first 2, 3, even first years out of college, first seasons in the NFL, to me, this shows that the team is building a strong foundation, and Robert Saleh at the helm is going to be unstoppable. So something to watch out for this year is going to be really aggressive defensive play calls from Robert Saleh, and I think that could be a response to some criticism, some light criticism and feedback from fans, from NFL insiders, that the offensive plays that the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan have been calling have been very rote, very just plug and play. It doesn't feel like there's a ton of anticipation for, I'll be honest, players' health, and also really reading the game time scenarios. It feels very much like we're running Christian McCaffrey just through the middle every single time. And I can say that wide kind of statement because if you watch a lot of the offensive highlights of 2024, 2023, you'll notice that as well. So like I said, it's exciting to have this kind of nod to the defense. We're kind of leaning on that side of the house a little bit more to build this 49ers team this year. And it's exciting. The 49ers this year are also going to be hosting this year's Super Bowl at Levi's Stadium. I said the 49ers hosting the Super Bowl is historically an indicator that they may not be playing in it, just based on the data, the likelihood, the odds of it all are pretty slim, right? But it's interesting to note that 2 times in NFL history has a home team for the Super Bowl played in the Super Bowl and won it. And guess what? The only 2 times this happened has been in the last 6 years. Like, what are the odds of that? In decades of NFL history, we in our lifetimes have seen this happen. So you might remember 2021, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they defeated them at home in Florida. Pretty unique, right? So this was, of course, during the Tom Brady era. I think this moment was a really, really cool chunk of time in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history of the franchise as a whole. So 2021, crazy, right? But then you look just the next year in 2022. Now you guys keep in mind, there's only 2 times that this has happened, and they were back to back in the last 5 years. And I'm not saying this is some conspiracy, but I am saying it's really quite interesting. The tides have turned a little bit, that it's not as unlikely that you might be playing at home and during the Super Bowl. So back to what I was saying, the second time was 2022 when the Rams were playing the Cincinnati Bengals at home in the Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. So they were the second team in NFL history to play at home during the Super Bowl and win it. Pretty interesting, right? And of course, there were some near misses and close calls. So the Vikings hosted the Super Bowl in 2017. They were playing in it. They lost. The Niners hosted the Super Bowl in 1985, played in it, lost. And the Rams played in 1980, not at SoFi Stadium. This was back at Memorial Coliseum, which what is the USC Stadium, and they played in that Super Bowl in 80 and lost it. But pretty interesting, right? I don't know what that really says as a whole. I think it's kind of that lightning doesn't strike twice phenomenon. I don't think there's any real takeaways from this data. I think it's just a coincidence, but it is kind of fun to think about, right? So these Super Bowl contracts are built out at least 5 or 10 years in advance. So when you're booking, when the NFL looks at the stadiums, they're looking at, which stadiums are built to hold this amount of people, probably the newest stadium. That's why the Super Bowl 2 years ago was at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. It's the newest stadium in the NFL. So it's hard to say how you would really be able to strategically know that, 5 years from now, the Bengals are going to be hot. Let's have it in Cincinnati. I don't think it works that way. I think that would be a stretch. But fun to think about, right? I mean, the odds are kind of maybe looking like they could be a little bit more in your favor if your team is hosting the Super Bowl now than, say, 10 or 30 years ago. So something to think about. Going back to the concept of familiar faces in new uniforms, the Raiders and Seahawks preseason game this week generated a lot of buzz. So let's think. So last year on the Seahawks, we had Pete Carroll as the coach, Geno Smith as the quarterback. Now, both of those key components of the offense and the team structure are now players and the Las Vegas Raiders. So Pete Carroll's the head coach. Geno Smith is one of the quarterbacks. He is likely not to be the starting quarterback, but he, of course, has an incredible history, and I think that he'll be a contender. I think that will play out as preseason and week 1, 2, 3 start to unfold. But a moment that happened during this game that kind of got me excited again for the NFL was the pomp and circumstance, if you will, of the old Seahawks faces in Raiders uniforms playing against their old team. Now, this is just some good old-fashioned NFL fun. I love this rivalry. I think Pete Carroll is fun to watch, fun to dislike when he was the Seattle Seahawks head coach. I couldn't stand him, but I respect him. He has a really incredible book that I recommend. I think he is very intelligent, and there's a lot that can be learned from him. So I'm excited to see him in his future as a Las Vegas Raiders coach. But a lot of fans might have noticed that Geno Smith took a big stand when he was running out through the tunnel ahead of the game. So some fan had a sign that said, like, bigger bust Geno or Jamarcus Russell. So this was kind of meant to invoke some anger and like rivalry, kind of a jab at Geno Smith, of course. And Geno Smith comes right out of the tunnel, jumping. He's excited, energetic, excited for this game, and he flips the bird at this fan. And this was a moment where, you're kind of like, oh, Is he gonna get in trouble for that? The league could make an example of him, but at the same time, it's like, yes, dude, like stand up for yourself. And something that I loved was Pete Carroll, after the game in a press conference, someone asked him about it, and he goes, "Did you see the sign? Next question." Like, he has his teammates back, he has his players back. And I was excited to see Geno Smith really lean into the Raiders mindset, right? So he's already feeling proud to be on this team, and he's already feeling kind of like that fun rivalry against his old team, but it may run deeper than that. It may not be just a fun rivalry to him. I think that he's looking at this opportunity on the Raiders as a second wave of his career, because, you know, if you'll remember, he did come out of college with a lot of attention on him. He was, I believe, a first-round draft pick, and on the Seahawks, he wasn't giving what we thought he would, to be quite frank. And I think there's a lot of reasons that was the case that I won't go into right now, not all of them being his fault by any means. But it's really fun to see him be excited. It's like, you know, he got a new job. It's like when you get a new job and you get a promotion, and this happened to me recently. I got a new job, I got a different manager, different teammates, and I came in with more energy than I'd ever have. Even though I didn't, you know, I'm a little bit more jaded, seasoned, whatever you want to call it, in my corporate career, I came in with more energy, and that's the feeling that I think Geno Smith has, and that is just, as a human, fun to see. So, and again, I love to see that Pete Carroll had his back on that, and it's really cool to watch these. Something I love about the league is that these players can get a second life and not even just a lateral move to another team, but they can position themselves on a new team and completely escalate their career. And it really has a lot to do with a quarterback's success. Has so much to do with the coaching staff. I think that is the position in the NFL where your staff and the team and your support bubble, really separate from the rest of the franchise, is the most crucial. Something that comes to mind when I think about that is really Davante Adams. I remember his time on the Raiders was frustrating. He was having a tough go with it. He wasn't feeling like he had the support that he needed. And I think that was due to probably having a quarterback that they didn't have that connection. They didn't have that cohesivity. They had friction, truly, and they weren't meshing. And when you have a quarterback and players that aren't meshing, and your coaching staff around you isn't helping to support or solve that, that's when you see an incredible first-round draft pick, MVP contender player flop. And that's by no fault of their own. So, I don't know, obviously Devontae Smith's not a quarterback, but that's where my brain went when I was thinking about how important it is to have a connection to your starting group of teammates and your coaches, and having that cohesivity and that energy is absolutely crucial. And once again, I think that's crucial in any part of life, right? Like, you need people around you that understand you and support you, and those kind of intangible connections and cohesivity that you have are make or break, truly. So the moral of it all is really, it's exciting to see Geno Smith be excited. I love that. I want to watch him play. I want to watch him have an awesome season. I'd love to see the Raiders have an awesome season. I've been to Allegiant Stadium. The stadium's incredible. The amount of money that Las Vegas has put into having the Raiders there makes me almost 100% certain that the Raiders will be in the Super Bowl in the next 5 years. There's no question in my mind, really. The coaching staff, the players, the money they have there, the stadium, there's no way the league is letting that team go another season with a losing record. I really just don't see that happening. So the Raiders are definitely a team to watch this year. They have a young team. They have a couple of young players that are exciting. They're starting. Max Crosby is an absolute character. Love to watch that guy play. He is full of heart. He is kind of scary. I might be scared to walk by him on the street, but that guy is fun to watch. So the Raiders are a team to watch. Pete Carroll's a coaching powerhouse, and that's someone who I'm excited to watch lead the Raiders this year. So looking back at last week's games in week one, sitting from a week two perspective, there was a really notable injury that I think is worth discussing and kind of thinking about as a collective of NFL fans. So in the Lions and Falcons game on Friday night, Detroit Lions safety Maurice Norris was taken off the field in an ambulance, and he was injured while trying to tackle a first-year let me look at this exactly. Atlanta rookie Nathan Carter with 14:50 to go. Norris hit Carter with his face mask facing the running back's midsection, and the defender's head snapped back after making the hit. So at that point, you're kind of thinking neck, you're thinking back, you're thinking head. And these kind of injuries, I think, while this is notable in the course of the game, it's also a little bit of a bigger picture reflection to me. So there's kind of this, there's this sort of, there's some efforts made by some NFL coaches and staff. For an example, if you're playing in a blowout game and there's very little likelihood that the team is going to come back and win, the losing team will come back and win. A lot of times, of course, the coaches will take out the quarterback, put in the second or even third stringer quarterback, and kind of take out the players who may be prone to injury or who are especially precious to the future season of the team. So while that theory, while that school of thought is definitely still in practice during the regular season, it's hard not to look at this preseason game, look at these two rookies, and think that was avoidable in a sense. And I don't know, I think that the opening the Pandora's box of CTE and NFL injuries is a topic that's too big for certainly me to handle, and certainly it's seemingly for the NFL and the NFLPA to handle. It's worth noting that these sort of injuries are twofold. So, of course, everyone's worried for the player's safety. The team is concerned. His teammates are concerned. It's upsetting. But we as fans know this happens in the NFL. This is a incredibly intense sport. It's high contact. There's a lot of risk, and that's why they get paid a lot of money. That's why they practice 80, 100 hours a week. They're in film. They're learning about safety techniques. They're wearing the most high-tech helmets, pads. That's why, in theory, the NFL is taking the most precaution possible to make sure that these players are safe. And from a skeptic's point of view, I do believe that they are taking all the precautions they can to keep these players safe, because from just an outsider's perspective, if you're Roger Goodell, you don't want your players getting hurt. If you're looking at it just from a very removed perspective, you don't want your players getting hurt. So I don't think there's anything in it for them not to protect the players. But then there's the second fold of this issue where if you're the player who gets hurt, there's a lot of pressure to give the impression that you're okay, everything's fine, brush it off your shoulder. You know, he tweeted, "I'm all good, guys, feeling good." It's like, of course he's not. It was probably a quite traumatic experience and it shook everybody up. But then there's this pressure to kind of be like, "I'm okay, I'm good, put me back in." I mean, it's kind of the same as if, you know, any athletes out there were playing a sport in high school, college, anything, club, anything. When you get hurt, but you really want to play in this game, you'll easily diminish those injuries so that you can get back in the game. So I think my main takeaway from this, and that I think it's important to know for you guys, is that no, I don't think the NFL is just willy-nilly letting these players go out and get hurt, because from the most sort of removed, unkind standpoint, there is nothing for the larger corporation to gain if their players are getting hurt, especially if the reputation of the NFL becomes even more dangerous for players and their mental health and their physical health, of course. So no, I don't think that there's any larger conspiracy to be, to be dismissing CTE. I think there's certainly more that can be done to support players in this regard, but I don't think it's a purposeful sort of play on their part. But like I said, it's important to be mindful of the pressure on players and athletes in any game, any field, any league, any age, to shake it off and be like, "Nope, put me in, coach," you know? So it's sad to see an injury like this happen in preseason, because this player, you know, probably thought he had 20 more games ahead of him. And then when you have an injury like this that's potentially season ending, you are kind of just skipping that whole chapter of the 2025-2026 season, and you have to start looking ahead. And mentally, that's really challenging. You start to kind of lose hope. And I'm not putting words in this person's mouth, but that would be challenging for any athlete or any person in a competitive sphere where you want to succeed. So That was unfortunately the result of the Lions-Falcons game this week, but I will keep you updated if anything comes further from this. At the moment, he is in stable condition and the team is rallying around him. He has incredible medical support in Atlanta, Georgia. Last but not least, we need to talk about the quarterback situation in Cleveland, Ohio, you guys. So we have 4 quarterbacks right now sitting in the queue, if you will. So we have Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, and Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders was the name on a lot of people's mouths during the NFL draft. He's an interesting case study to talk about. I think I could talk about him for 30 minutes. I won't right now, but if you guys would like to discuss that, I definitely would be interested in kind of breaking down the media reception of him and what I think was a very unfair portrayal of his ability and his character. But fast forward, we're here, we're in August. There's 4 quarterbacks in Cleveland, Ohio that are, in their minds, competing for the starting spot. So Shedeur Sanders, from the naked eye, you think, oh my gosh, yeah, he's starting the preseason game. He's probably going to be QB2. Lest we forget, Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel are both injured. So let's pause there and let's think about if you are Dylan Gabriel and Kenny Pickett and you've both become injured, unavailable, completely unavailable to activate during this preseason moment right now, don't you think you are rushing to tell your trainer you feel fine? Don't you think that you are rushing your healing process? I would be, oh my God, I would be so intensely trying to PT and get a good report and become activated so that I can get involved in this sort of swirl that feels tenuous right now. So that's where those 2 guys sit. They are injured, they're on IR. Both of them had a potential to be QB2. I will say candidly, not QB1, because we have Joe Flacco on the Browns. If I'm the coach and the offensive coordinator and the QB coach of the Browns, I'm starting Joe Flacco. That man is a Super Bowl winner. That man, he's been the Super Bowl MVP. He has proven himself time and time again, and that's a franchise quarterback. Duh. So in my mind, we have him here on rank 1. He's kind of immovable, if you will. And then you've got these 2 injured quarterbacks, and then Shedeur Sanders comes in. He is starting this game. He has an incredible game. Let's look at his stats right here. He had 138 passing yards, threw for 2 touchdowns, threw 0 interceptions. He had 4 carries for 19 yards, decent. He did take 2 sacks, but that's I'm not going to attribute that to him. I think that's more of an offensive line problem. But so this guy comes in. He has an incredible game. The media's all a buzz. I'm a buzz. I'm excited to watch this guy play. But then you look at, let me throw this picture up really quick, the reactions from his team, from his quarterbacks while he's having this game. So Joe Flacco is stoked, which, you know, you're an older guy on the team, your spot's a little bit more solidified. You're excited to watch this guy who you've been practicing with one-on-one, you know, throwing, running plays, running routes. They're in the rooms watching film together. They are attached at the hip, all these quarterbacks. So Joe Flacco's excited. He's like, yes, this is my guy. I'm so excited to watch this guy have an awesome game. Pickett and Gabriel are like, oh, they're watching him. I mean, I have chills just thinking about it. They're like kind of watching their year shape and their future shape as this guy, Sanders, has an incredible game. Yes, it's only preseason. Yes, it doesn't mean much, but it gets in your head, that's for sure. So that's an interesting one. I think there's a lot of pressure on Shedeur Sanders, and he doesn't get to have a straight shoot just from college to NFL to proving himself like a normal player would. He has a ton of eyes on him because of his dad. His dad's a Hall of Famer. His dad was an incredible player. And I think that adds a pile. That's a little bit of a pile on, right? But then you get the media attention. So it's like, oh, why weren't you drafted in the first round? You don't deserve to be drafted in the first round. And you're hearing all this. You're like, what? And it kind of dilutes your sense of self. And it kind of took away his, here I go. See, I'm talking about it anyways. It dilutes the sense of just pure game. And by game, I mean the ability to just come in really like everybody else did. You know, to come into a team, you have a fresh slate, you don't have a reputation weighing you down, And some people might say, oh my God, he's getting extra favored because of who he is. I don't think that's how that works. I think that might work a little bit in the beginning, but when you're on the field and you're in these film rooms and you're watching, and you're having these long tape watching sessions and you're working with your staff and your coaches, I don't think that helps you. I don't think any extra, Nepo baby powers that people think he has, I don't think that's doing anything for him. I think that's working against him. When you actually get down, put your cleats on, you're on the field, that doesn't fly. That doesn't work. It doesn't carry you. It's a game. There's statistics. There's data. Being a Nepo baby is not a thing in football, in sports at all. So I feel for him. Honestly, I think that he's gotten what people perceive as a head start. I think he's got a weight of 100 pounds on him. So I'm excited to watch him. I love seeing him play well. I feel for Pickett and Gabriel. If I was them, I would be shaking in my boots. I would be having nightmares about him. Yeah, but it was cool to see Joe Flacco be excited for him. I loved watching that interaction, and I would be certain that Joe Flacco will be starting week 1, and I think Shedeur Sanders will be QB2. And I think that, once again, Pickett and Gabriel being injured is going to have haters being like, well, he's only QB2 because these QB3 and 4 are injured. Okay, maybe that's true. But that's how the league works. That's how football works. And just because this kid, there's just been so much push and pull about it, the polar extremes surrounding his position in the NFL is incredibly unfair. He's either too good, he's either being rewarded because of his name, or he's not good enough and he should have been drafted higher, but people are working against him because of his last name. Make it make sense. I don't know. Anyways, you guys, I'm so glad you tuned in. I'm glad we got to talk about this together. There's so much going on, and we are only in week 2. So next week, I will look forward to speaking with you all about what we have seen this week in the NFL, what's been going on. We're going to update you on all the players that you're interested in. I hope you took away some knowledge that you can share with your friends, that you can start conversations with, things to think about, right? Like larger questions about the league. Put yourself in these players' shoes. I want you guys to use this show as a way to enjoy the NFL more. It's like putting salt on the food's already good. The NFL's already good, but this is the salt that you need to put on the NFL to make it even more delicious and more fun. And you have all the information. You are equipped and ready to enjoy this NFL season. So I can't wait to talk to you guys again. Drop a comment if you have any topics that feel top of mind for you that you want to discuss. I want to hear what you have to think about. This is a community. We are all fans of this incredible league. So I can't wait to talk to you next week, and have an amazing week. Let's enjoy these games together, you guys. Bye.